All right, it's time for some ACC football camp check-ins. We'll talk about Boston College, Virginia Tech, Pitt, UNC. What will become of this Boston College offensive line? Can UNC's defense stop the run? Is there bright spots for Virginia Tech and Pitt offense showing some shine with this new Phil Jurkovec? All of this and more on today's show.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you download and subscribe to the pod from the YouTube space. It's always a good thing when you have 1,000 followers, but we can use 1,000 more. So go ahead and hit that subscription button. We're talking today about some camp check-ins around some of your favorite teams here in the ACC, as well as FSU remaining in the ACC despite all of the summer huff and puff. We'll have all of that here. Kenton, how are you feeling?
I feel great, and I'm sorry that we have to break our word and talk about Florida State again. But it's been a tough news week, and we don't have a ton of different things to talk about. People are being real tight-lipped out of camp, which is a little worrisome because, if you get a new Ferrari, if you get a Gucci belt, I done seen people tuck in a graduation cap and gown to show off the 2 Gs, and I'm worried because nobody wants to show off their 2 Gs right now, which is telling me your belt don't got 2 Gs on it, does it? But, that's another story for another time.
Well, maybe people are trying to keep stuff under wraps because they're very excited about what's to come. They don't want to give too much away, and they don't want to oversell the hype or the dream. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, that's very possible. It's very plausible. But I'm going to tell you this. These coaches know what they got.
As someone who's participated in a camp or two, it's better to reveal too much, or it's worrisome if you don't reveal enough?
I mean, I think it's all the same from a player's perspective. It's all the same. If your coach, I will say this though, if your coach talks about your unit in particular or you in particular, it does instill a sense of pride, a sense of joy in that, of 100 or so guys that are out here competing. Because fun fact, camp does have more players than the regular season and all that. So out of about 100 guys that are out there competing, your unit or you in particular are being highlighted as like, hey, this is a guy. This is a dude that's out there absolutely doing it. I guess I would say it's better to say too much than, to not give praise and have people kind of wondering, what's going on here? Like, is there nothing that we're proud of right now?
But you're fairly familiar with coach speak and reading between the lines. And I'm sure every day when we see these media takes and see some of these head coaches come out and talk about what they like and dislike of camp, maybe it's to cause some worry. We can kick it off with one who knows how to speak to media, knows how to sell a dream or two. And that is UNC's coach, Mack Brown, who, of course, has, never minced words when it comes to how he feels about certain things, shoots it straight or sometimes doesn't shoot it at all. But he is very clear about this UNC defense and why they're still struggling when it comes to stopping a runny nose. When it comes to stopping the rush, it feels as if we're going to see more of the same from UNC's defense heading into 2023.
Yeah, and I will say this, there is concern about the ability to stop the run and all that good stuff. That's not something that is, that we're making up or whatever the case may be. That's directly from the horse's mouth in terms of Mack Brown saying, hey, we're concerned about this. We're worried about this and all that good stuff. But with that being said, it is clear to me that there are some bright spots in this defense. For example, the fact that they only allowed 3 big plays in their scrimmage this past Saturday that's a thing for a moment for excitement for some UNC fans, because at the end of the day, you're looking at a defense that, in terms of allowing big plays, was one of the worst in the conference last year, in terms of allowing those massive chunk plays where it's looking at the back of receivers' heads, looking at the back of more heads than a good barber in terms of your defensive backs. That's something that we saw. And so having that ability to negate those big plays, the stopping the run part of it is still very important because they did allow the most yards per carry as well. However, it is better to have that. It's better to eliminate as many bad things as possible. long story short. And if they are eliminating their giving up big plays constantly, they're putting themselves in a good position to where you have to nickel and dime. You have to be patient. You have to trust the run game in order to get in the end zone against this team.
One thing I noticed about Coach Brown is he's very good at basically telling you what's bad so you can prep for it, and there's no surprises in terms of if it actually goes to crap. You're not like, oh my gosh, where was the run game? How do you stop it? If he's telling you we're still struggling with it, then he's going to come back around to it throughout the season and say, I told you guys this was tough. I told you guys our schedule was too hard. And so if we do lose, don't act like I was like, oh, I'm all in and blah, 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 blah. So I think it's sort of reverse psychology in terms of what he attempts to do. But if you can sift through the BS, then you're like, yeah, okay. What you're telling me is this defense going to be the same.
I mean, here's the problem. Okay. Stopping the big plays is important. That is important. Okay. But here's what happens when you stop those big plays. Generally, the game is won and lost from the money zone or the red zone and green zone. What do I mean by the game is won and lost in the green zone? So the red zone for the offense, 20-yard line to their goal line. The green zone for defense, 20-yard line to their goal line in that regard. So why am I saying that that's important? Mac Brown has also said that the red zone defense is okay, but must improve. Here's the thing. Stopping the big play is amazing. If you have a bend but don't break defense, that has worked. That has won championships at every level. Here's where that comes in, though. Your red zone defense has to be at least very good in order for that to work. Because you're saying, hey, we'll concede yards between the 20s or really the 30s is about where people are okay with saying we'll concede these yards. But once you get to the 30 and in, we've got to be able to get the stops that we need to get. And if the red zone defense is okay, but must improve, on top of, potentially not being able to stop the run, yeah, you could be on to something with saying the defense is going to be the same, Candace.
Like Mr. Jenny Wright says, I'm convinced that UNC's defense will never be able to stop the run. And, it's tough. I will be pleasantly surprised if that is a point of positivity this season, but it's not given likely. They also have a cornerback who is out with the lower body injury. So, they can't afford to lose anybody in the secondary, but they really have to step up when it comes to guys in the trenches. And right now I'm not feeling confident. However, we still have positives. There's always Drake May. You can always hang your hat on Drake.
And the linebacking core is apparently doing pretty well. A third linebacker has emerged in true freshman Amari Campbell, who is a big hitter. They're saying that he's walking around laying the lumber in those parts. So we're looking at some pretty good things there in terms of it's not all bad. It's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom for that defense. It's not great. We're not hearing glowing reviews like, hey, this defense this year, night and day from what you saw last year. But there are spots for optimism. And on a defense where you look at Cedric Gray and say, oh boy, if he gets hurt, we are completely, royally, done. To hear that there are other linebackers who are evolving and showing really great potential. And I say evolving very loosely here, as this young man is a true freshman, meaning he's only been here since spring ball or been there since spring ball. But to see other linebackers stepping up is a big deal.
100% agree. Let's talk about our friends here at Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between either hair growth or your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. Kitten, I hope that you're listening to this one. Men think losing hair is inevitable. Take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men. Did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Men, are you tired of weakening or thinning hair? Do you want to reach your full hair potential? Leading hair growth supplement Nutrafol helps improve hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness and visible scalp coverage. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. That's Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Sometimes people are just here to help you. You feel me? You're here to help.
Ross Jackson is another star of Locked On Podcast Network, and he, like I, is happily bald. So there's that.
You know, if you guys want to step up to the plate and try a little Nutrafol and be you can be a real live read. You can be a real update.
We'll pass.
I'm just trying to help a brother out.
I've talked about the items that we have to advertise that I absolutely love. I've talked about those plenty of times. Okay.
Okay.
LinkedIn jobs, use it all the time at work. Sweat block, love it. Great. We're not going to go there right now. We're not going to get into this on there. We'll talk about this later.
Let's talk about Pitt and Phil Jurkovec and his offense and how it's high flying. And you know what? He might have been the missing piece. Keaton Slovis, see you never. Now we're ready to go. We have all the pieces for Pitt to be a great team flying under the radar, but it's fine because they know at the end of the day, they've been to ACC championships in recent years and they can get right back.
That offense is scaring some folks. It's scaring some folks. The people up in Pitt. And I'm not, not saying this because I said that Pitt team was going to be good. I'm just telling you, this is a team that, Pat Narduzzi said outright, the offense won the scrimmage. It came down to a lack of turnovers. The first team offense had one turnover the entire scrimmage. When you play over 100 plays with your first and second teams and there's only one turnover, it's impressive. The one turnover might as well have been a punt, but MJ Devonshire did make a heck of an interception that would have been an ESPN highlight. So what's being said there is not only did they take care of the ball at an extremely high level, the only time that they turned the ball over was a freak of nature play. And let me tell you why that's important. In football, you cannot prevent everything. It's impossible. It's impossible.
In life, no, I'm just kidding.
There is, yes, in life as well. You really can't. There's only but so much you can account for.
Sure.
Every offensive, defensive, special team scheme says, hey, if this player does this, we tip our cap. They made a great play. You go back to the huddle. You do it again. You figure it out. You just may have given up a touchdown. You may have turned the ball over. You figure it out and go back to the drawing board. If you're looking at that type of situation where the only time that you're turning the ball over is when a player makes a crazy acrobatic interception, baby, there's a reason they're DBs, with all due respect. With all due respect. And if you're counting on, hey, if this DB can go up and make a OBJ style catch, we'll live with that. We'll live with that turnover. Then yeah, that's okay. But this Pitt offense is there. They are, like Narduzzi mentioned, they won the scrimmage. They're looking explosive. They're looking like they're doing things that are absolutely amazing. Is for all the talk that has surrounded NC State and Brennan Armstrong and Robert and I reuniting, Phil Jurkovec is also reuniting with his former offensive coordinator under whom he had his best year. So
sure.
This is something to look out for. This Pitt team is something serious.
And if anything, we talk a lot about motivating teams feeling like underdogs. If nothing else, for Narduzzi to say the offense won the day, knowing how much we put into Pitt's defense and talk so highly about them, I think that gives them that extra spark to say, listen, we want to be just as enough match energy, top notch as well. And so if anything, it's going to be a scary sight coming out of, I would call it Heinz Field, but we don't know what we call it these days. It's all a Acrisure. Is that what it is?
There are always new names.
Is it a crypto one that you're gonna have to renege?
Oh Lord. Is it Qualcomm? Because they seem to be taking over every stadium. I know it's like 3 or 4 stadiums named after Qualcomm at this point.
Let's just not call it a Papa John's, because you know how Louisville and they get sensitive.
Oh boy. The stadium in which Pittsburgh University plays football. that
Right.
stadium. We're hearing great things out of there.
There you go. And crazy enough, you talk about Pitt, you think, oh, Kenny Pickett, he plays for the Steelers now. It's all of that when you talk. But Phil Jurkovec sounds like he's going to make a name for himself. And Pitt might be one of those that runs under the table. And they could be our dark horse. We talked about Louisville potentially being that. But Pitt, to me, is the one that's probably the most underrated. Hail to Pitt. Peninsula P, I'm sure, is having a great time listening to this one. But I think that Pitt definitely is going to not shock folks because we know how good of a team they can be, but certainly re-enter themselves into that top team conversation. If anyone, we talked on that other day about being snubbed, Pitt might be that team that should have got a top 25 ranking.
Yeah, Pitt is another one of those teams that I look at and say, I could see it. I could definitely see it. And I understand that they lost a lot defensively, but do you ever want to bet against a Pat Narduzzi coach defense? Is that ever a good bet?
Right.
I'd say no. And so with that in mind, this Pitt defense combined with now an offense that, again, according to Narduzzi, direct quote here, is connecting really well on our deep balls. You're looking at a team that, with that defense and generating some big plays, last time we saw it, those boys walked away with rings. Yeah. They all walked away with some bling on their hands. So, that is a team to look out for, and they have their quarterback position sorted out, unlike some other teams that we're hearing about at this point in the camp, which is pretty concerning because kickoff is less than 3 weeks away for everybody. So
let's go ahead and call them to the carpet and bring them to the table. Which team still needs to find their quarterback situation, nail that down?
We talked about the Commonwealth before and all the problems they were having. Coach Pry, what a guy, what a personality.
What a guy.
What
Very
a
high energy. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But yet there's no news of a starting quarterback. There's nothing. There's no definitive, hey, this is our guy. We're rocking with him. This is our guy. And if something goes wrong and we got to throw the other guy in there, we'll do that. But this is our guy for now. Still nothing. Nothing. And I understand the angle of like, oh, we're going to catch you by surprise. This quarterback has a different skill set from this quarterback. Their quarterbacks are not that diametrically opposed to where like game planning for the two or game planning for one of them would mean that you're directly game planning against to the opposite of what the other one's tendencies are. That's not the case. So That's a little concerning. However, the receiving core is said to be performing at a very high level, that's positive, reason for optimism, reason for, a few smiles up there in Blacksburg. But you know what they say. If you got two quarterbacks, how many do you have?
None. And hell, if you got no quarterbacks, what we doing? If we still rotating first team reps, then we got a long way to go.
Well, maybe they can go Wildcat all year. Just out like that.
Hey, you know what? It worked for Wake Forest when they had that big the chocolate brother and Sam Hartman.
That may have to be the case. That may have to be the case.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, speaking of offense, not necessarily at the quarterback position, but at the offensive line. Boston College is starting to figure things out after a very tumultuous last season of having to play 5th stringers, 10th stringers. Anybody who could play it will have to put their hand in the dirt. Their offensive line apparently is just, getting better, back to old form, back to the Boston College that we have come to know and love.
Listen, gone are the days of Adazio. It's no longer there, no longer on staff, no longer employed by them. But apparently they are returning to old Boston College form in that the offensive line is returning to being one of the strengths of the team. That is one of the things that has been talked about. They talked about it at media days. They talked about it, all throughout spring ball and whatnot in terms of the guys they were getting back and guys they picked up in the transfer portal. And now even in camp, there seems to be a consistent message. The offensive line is better. The offensive line is better. The offensive line is, hey, did I tell y'all already? Our offensive line got better. So, that is really the biggest thing that was on Boston College's wish list. To take Pat Garwo from a 1,000-yard rusher to a guy that was averaging about 2 yards per carry is insanity. Mm-hmm. That is legitimate insanity. And yet there they were last year with a complete and utter struggle to generate anything on the ground. I mean, you couldn't get a drop out of that offensive line if you pumped and primed them like a well for about 30 minutes straight. So with that being said, this offensive line being improved means that team will be improved because everything on the offense, Boston College showed us why big guys win games.
Mm-hmm.
They showed us why. Because when you're putting together a ragtag bunch, when you're putting together the island of misfit toys, when you're throwing walk-ons and defensive linemen who hadn't played O-line in 5-6 years on the team or on your starting offensive line, when you have a lineup where I don't believe they carried the same starting five into any game, any 2 games last year. When that is the case, you're going to see some terrible results. And so now that they should have some continuity and should have some health, that team should be much improved.
I hope to see it. Emmett Morehead's going to need all the help that he can get, especially being a new quarterback in this league that is known for its strong quarterbacks. He is going to need the help and protection from that line. So it's nice to hear that there is some improvement. Let's talk through, our favorites, all the spiciness. So if you're Florida State and you've been waiting this whole time to hear us, here we go. I just want to sit here and say that Florida State, all of that hoop and hollering and President McCullough telling us out there leaving at some point there's going to be no value in the ACC and they should have ran and all this stuff. When the deadline hit for y'all to make a declaration, tell us that you're going to go about your way. Florida State did not meet with their board of directors. Florida State did not say and drop any news that they were going to be leaving the ACC. For reasons that we still truly don't know. Did the SEC not want them? Can they not afford it? Are they just, talking just to draw attention to distract from whatever is? Who knows the real reason? All I know is they're sitting right where the fanny at. So
this is a terribly uninspiring thing to talk about. I told everybody nobody's leaving because these teams aren't stupid. The payouts are higher, much higher than what Maryland had to pay out. And you'll see similar penalties in terms of not owning the rights to your home game streaming and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
These teams are not dumb.
These universities are not dumb.
These universities are not dumb.
The lawyers they paid, they ain't dumb.
No.
And they went through, nail, tooth, and comb, every single article to figure out any loopholes, any backdoor deal, any way to get out of it.
If you're looking for dum-dums, they've got the popsicles. Not popsicles, the lollipops that are absolutely amazing.
Now you can't crack no analogy and get it wrong like that.
There are some of that. Well, it's all right. Popsicle, lollipop, it's all right. It's all the same. Either way you cut it or slice it.
Mm-hmm.
For all of our foolishness and for all of the we're leaving. Y'all are gonna look dumb when we leave because you're disrespecting us again.
My favorite was, I'm going to subscribe to your channel so I can come back and see when y'all get it wrong. I'm like, did you think you heard us by subscribing?
No, but are you still coming though? Are you watching this episode, friend?
Probably.
Are you watching?
You coming back. You just read the titles like, they're not talking about FSU. Oh, baby, come on. We got something for you. I take my apologies in cash, okay? The person who wanted my Cash App, I got it right for you.
Hello, $ just gives, baby. $ just gives. Come on with the come on now.
If you get hacked, that's your fault.
I mean, if they hack me, they're gonna be real disappointed. They're gonna be very disappointed. They might throw some money in there. They're gonna say, "Ooh, I knew it was tough on talent acquisition right now, but I didn't know it was this tough." Hold on, wait a minute.
The ACC network really ain't paying y'all. Oh, okay. I was just checking.
Like I said, Jimmy P. You know what I mean? Give me a call, my boy. Give me a call. Let me know what's going on.
Okay. So all that to say is for the 4 teams I didn't want it, Florida State, North Carolina State, and Clemson. I get it. Y'all want to explore options. Y'all feel like y'all have the big brand. Surprising a little bit that Miami wasn't in that conversation, but they might just be happy to be here. All in all, as much as people want to rag the ACC, it's just, and we ain't played it down yet. People are bored, need things to do.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we talked about it earlier and how it's a tough news week and all that. That's what this time of year is, right? Yeah. Like this time of the year, we talk about everything. We drum up everything. ESPN put up a quote the other day from Shaq talking about LeBron from 4 years ago.
Sage Steele is leaving it, ESPN. I was like, girl, and
but I want you to think about this now. One of the biggest, if not the biggest, sports entertainment brands in the world is posting 4-year-old quotes at this time of the year. That is a reflection of the period that we're in right now.
ESPN Ocho getting busy. They getting numbers. They playing cornhole. They're playing frisbee. They're playing slam basketball.
Basketball. They playing basketball. Yeah.
They're playing the one where you trampoline, basketball, all
Yeah,
that.
yep, slam
Times
ball.
is
Yeah,
hard. Slam
yeah.
ball, yes.
Hmm.
So times is hard. And it's going to clearly be even harder for the ACC as they figure out expansion. The Pac-4, clearly not one. It's sad that we don't have those conversations about joining the AAC and things that we probably never thought we would see ourselves in. But we could have a whole bunch of independent schools by the end of all this conversation. So
That's possible. That's very possible.
Chip Kelly might have been onto something with this whole 64 league thing. So it remains to be seen how it all trickles down. We just know that right now we got all 13.5, maybe a little Notre Dame action every now and again. But as we rock and as we roll through this ACC football season, we hope you guys stick by us and make sure that you check out all of our episodes here. All of our friends around Locked On Podcast Network, if you have a specific school that you check out, that you follow, if you want one, you haven't seen it up there, please hit us up at Locked On ACC. You can follow us on Twitter and all of the different channels. Make sure that you hit us up in the audio space. Leave us 5-star reviews because we always appreciate that. For Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs, until next time.